Heroes created by people's imagination live and commit their acts of bravery in our program, The Legend of Kazakhs. Legends are an invaluable cultural heritage passed down from generation to generation. There are many beautiful mountains in our land. They were admired by our ancestors, and they inspired them to compose songs and dastans, kuis and legends. The giant triangle piercing the sky is known as the Majestic Mountain, Han Tengri, which in Mongolian means the Lord of Heaven. Kazakhs and Kyrgyz of ancient times called it Khan To, from the Turkic Khan, which means blood, and To, which means mountain. This name is explained by the fact that under the reddish sunset, the rays of the sun in the upper part of the top become almost red, and the shadows from the clouds sweeping over them create a semblance of flowing red streams from it. The Han Tengri Peak, the highest point of Kazakhstan, is considered one of the most beautiful peaks of the Central Asian Tian Shan. The marble top in the form of a pointed pyramid is visible from almost everywhere. The Lord of Spirits, the King of the Heavenly Range, the inaccessible peak to mere mortals. This is the opinion about this graceful marble triangular pyramid. The mountains of the Tian Shan exceed 6 kilometers above sea level, and the summit of Han Tengri is the most severe corner of the planet, whose height is almost 7,000 meters. All this ridge, together with the gaps between the mountain peaks, are covered with now ever-intermingling shrouds of white snow. Coldness reigns there forever. For thousands of years, Han Tengri was inaccessible for a man to conquer. Not even 100 years have passed since the first expedition climbed to the top of this harsh mountain. The mountain since ancient times has been surrounded with legends and myths. The folk fantasies believe that spirits and fairy tale monsters lived around the heavenly mountains. We will tell you now about one of these legends, about the origin of the Majestic Mountain. A long time ago, so long in fact that the earth had no people, no animals, no birds, only spirits lived there. Once the spirit of the fox was walking along a huge mountain, with its top rested against the blue sky. The spirit was walking along a narrow rocky path, and he saw the spirit of the bird standing and looking, head high, to the top of the mountain. In his hands he held a scroll, in which, as usual, he always would write down something. "Greetings, spirit of the bird," the spirit of the fox said, and he stopped beside him. "Greetings to you as well, spirit of the fox," replied the spirit of the bird. "Why are you standing here? What are you thinking about?" "Yes, as usual, I'm writing down everything that I see and hear into my scroll. When our descendants, the people and animals and birds, will live on the earth, they will learn about how this world was created," the spirit of the bird answered. Yes, you are doing something very useful," the spirit of the fox said. "I know that you have described a lot about the birth of the rivers, lakes, and forests. And now you've decided to describe this heavenly mountain." "Yes, I have. And now I think that I want to write down something, because I know 2 stories about the birth of this heavenly mountain. One says that the spirit of the stone decided to conquer the great heavens and created a rocky mountain, and that it was higher than the sky. There is another legend that says this is a huge giant that holds the sky, so that it doesn't fall down, and the giant stood there so long that he became completely petrified. He got covered with snow and ice." The spirit of the fox listened attentively to the spirit bird, but shook his head and exclaimed, No, wait! Don't write anything down! It's not like that! I know the real story. Look there yourself! What sharp tips this peak has! Yes, the beak is sharp, sharp as a spear. It seems that it pierces the clouds in the sky. Yes, I'll tell you how it really was. The spirit of the fox began with an important tone. After all, as you know, when none of us were here on Earth, the great dragon lived in our place. He was so huge that he ate the stars. And one day, when he was very hungry, he opened his mouth and grabbed one of the stars, itching it. But the star was so strong that the dragon broke his tooth, and he growled in pain and flew away. But no one knows where to, and only his tooth remained here. The spirit of the bird shook his head and replied, Perhaps, but I did not hear of such a legend. Now it turns out there are already 3 legends. Which one is right? We ought to ask someone else about this. The spirit of the bird looked around, and he saw the wolf walking. Greetings, spirit of the wolf! The spirit of the bird shouted loudly. I need your help. Could you come up here and explain something? The spirit of the wolf stopped, turned to the call, and approached the 2 spirits. Greetings to you, good spirits. I will be happy to help you, he said. Help us, the spirit of the bird said. Now I'm going to describe this great summit. Do you know anything about this heavenly mountain? The spirit of the wolf stood there for a moment, and he thought before he answered. Of course I know. We know a few, the bird said, and if your tradition coincides with one of them that I already know, then I will write it down in my scroll. It will be true. The spirit of the wolf cleared his throat and began his story. I don't know all the details, but for sure I know one thing, that there were no mountains on Earth, and there was only one mountain on Earth. It was huge, enormous. And then it happened that one day someone angered the God of heaven. A terrible thunder crashed, and lightning brightened the sky. The sky was as bright as fire. The lightning fell on the earth like rain, and one of them hit that huge mountain. The mountain exploded into many pieces. Stone blocks flew into different directions of the world, so the mountains were formed in this way all over the earth. This mountain was also formed. What, is this surprising for you? All the mountains were formed in this way. I haven't heard about that, the spirit of the bird said, opening his eyes widely in surprise. And I haven't heard about it either, the spirit of the fox replied. And I've heard another story, a voice suddenly exclaimed from below. All the spirits looked down and saw the spirit of the marten. And I heard. That's what, the spirit of the marten continued. That's one of the sons of heaven, the god of the wind, asked him to collect a huge boulder of stone, and that from these stones he would make sure that the top rested against the clouds. Then he could go down to earth using a ladder. The god of the wind helped him. This is how this heavenly mountain was formed. Look at it. Its tops are always shrouded in the clouds. The spirits glanced at each other and shrugged their shoulders. Nobody knew which legend was true. Don't get so upset, spirit of the bird, said the spirit of the marten. I know what to do. And all the spirits listened attentively to the spirit of the marten. He continued, Let's go now to the spirit of the bear. He knows the truth. He's lived near these mountains for a long time. He's lived on Earth for the longest time, in fact. He is wise, and he has communicated with many gods and spirits. The spirits nodded their heads. The chronicler was more than happy with this simple solution. The spirits went to search for the spirit of the bear. They walked along the mountain paths until finally they saw the spirit of the bear. He was sitting high on the mountain stone ledge. He sat in deep thought and contemplated the forest, the lakes and rivers stretching before him. The spirits climbed the mountain and approached him, expressing their respect. Greetings, wise and strong spirit of the bear, the spirits said. And I greet you as well, good spirits. The spirit of the bear answered with a loud, imperious voice. I am glad to meet you. You know I seldom go down. I spend most of my time alone among these heavenly bodies and stars. So, what brings you to me? We want you to decide a question for us. The spirit of the bird began to talk. You know that I write everything that I see and hear in my scroll. When our descendants live on earth, the people and the animals and the birds, they will learn about how the world was created. I've wanted to write down about the heavenly mountains, but we cannot understand how they were really formed." The spirit of the bear smiled, and he began his story. "Of course, it is my story that is true, because I was told about it by the spirit of ice, who constantly lives at the top of the heavenly mountain. Once upon a time, there was no land, no sky. There was only one vast ocean. And once inside the ocean, a white light appeared, Akjarik. And from that light, there miraculously appeared a radiant golden egg. Inside this egg, the god Tengri was buried. The future ancestors of the whole world, you and I together. He slept very long. How many years he slept, nobody knows." The spirits then surrounded the bear, and with bated breath, they listened to his story. And one day, Tengri woke up. He broke the strong shell of the golden egg and went outside. From the top of the egg, Tengri created heaven, and from the bottom he made the earth. And so that the sky couldn't fall to the earth and chaos could not come back to reign, Tengri placed between them a heavenly stake, Temir Kazakh, now called the Polar Star. Toward the North Star, Tengri tied these celestial horses, the stars and constellations that go around the sky. When the god Tengri created heaven and earth, he decided that it was necessary to produce offspring. Then he himself was divided into a man and a woman. The woman goddess he called Umai, and placed her on top of the mountain, in the sky above. The god Tengri then breathed his breath, and it became the winds and the clouds. His voice was the thunder. The right eye of the Lord Tengri turned into the bright sun, and his left eye into the cold moon. If the god was hungry, thunder and lightning was heard in the sky, and during a storm, Tengri inflicted evil spirits that prevented him from creating the world. The god of Tengri is omnipotent, and every word turns into an act. According to his word, the mountains were erected, and the seas were filled. Tengri dispossesses the destinies of the spirits. Only he knows how everything will happen on earth. You all know that he is a real god, and that the other gods fulfill his will and orders. The god then decided to create sons who would be his assistants. And the god gave birth to 3 sons, Gisir, Genghis, and Irin Sayin. They have several names: Ush Kurbistan, the 3 peers, 3 khans, or 3 rulers. Together they are called Teligay. The eldest of the sons of Tengri, Gisir, his father sent to perform various feats and bring glory. The middle son, Genghis, his name also means sea and ocean, and Tengiz, the youngest, is Irin Sayin. All of the sons obeyed the god Ulken, the great who ruled the whole world, and all of the affairs in it. When the great Tengri began to create the earth, everything was hot. The earth was burned and the water boiled, and the stones were liquid. Then God created the heavenly mountain, and sat on top of this mountain as on a throne. From the top of it, it was convenient to see everything, and he could contemplate his creation. Tengri sat on his throne and waited for it to cool down. So he created the mountains, seas, lakes, rivers, and forests. He was sitting so very high from the earth that fire and heat did not reach him. It was a high, heavenly mountain. He waited for it to cool down, and when the earth cooled, God began to create sentient beings. For example, us. Then God returned to heaven. Tengri is all-seeing. There is no such mystery that could be unknown to our God. And beyond the heavenly mountain lies the Milky Way, which flows through the sky. Therefore, it is called the Heavenly Mountain, in honor of the god Tengri. Han Tengri it is called, and that is how it was created. The spirit of the bear then breathed deeply and finished his story. "Thank you, mighty and wise spirit," the spirit of the bird exclaimed. "Now we have no doubts which one is the truth." They thanked him, and the spirits then dispersed to go about their business. And the spirit of the bird returned to the foot of the great heavenly mountain, and unfolding his scroll, he began to write down in detail all that the spirit of the bear told him. Now in his scroll there appeared another chronicle about the creation of the great mountain, Han Tengri. Han Tengri is considered to be one of the most beautiful mountains in the world because of its marble top. It has amazed tourists with its beauty and grandeur. Han Tengri was first mentioned in Chinese chronicles more than 1,000 years ago. The difficult accessibility of the Han Tengri region delayed its research for a long time. The people wouldn't venture to go deep into this kingdom of eternal winter. The first description of Han Tengri was made by Peter Semenov, and later Semenov Tianshan. He was the first researcher to enter the glacier and to describe his remarkable journey. The Han Tengri peak is difficult to access. Therefore, it is extremely interesting for climbers, and to climb to its top is a cherished dream for many. For the first time, the peak was conquered in 1931. Until recently, the peak has attracted the attention of scientists and climbers, promising them a lot of unknown things. The tops of the Tian Shan ranges are extremely numerous, and the ascent that is made in this massif is complex and dangerous. Near the peak of Han Tengri, there are many other peaks that frame this picturesque mountain valley with lakes and rivers. It is interesting that the Han Tengri mountain is facing its slopes simultaneously in 3 countries: Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, and China. Kazakhstan owns the northern part of the mountain. The beauty of the mountain is fascinating. The sharp crests are underlined by gray turquoise glaciers and dazzling snowfields. At their foot, there are multicolored alpine meadows that adjoin the dark coniferous forests of the Tian Shan fir. High mountain valleys and plateaus, and the mountain slopes which are covered with succulent herbs. The abundance of wild animals, mountain goats and sheep, argali, create favorable conditions for predators and the rare leopards. But rising higher where it is cold, you cannot find a trace of life, only dazzling snow and blue ice. Han Tengri, one of the most beautiful peaks of the world, reminds us of the real greatness and power of the mountains. Water is one of the 4 elements. Many consider it to be soft, complacent, and devoid of aggression or power. But everything can change at the moment when you can see a waterfall before your eyes. When the noise of the rumbling stream of water spreads throughout the district, it eclipses all the other sounds. At that moment, it seems that nothing in the world can stop this powerful giant. The waterfall is one of the most beautiful natural phenomena. The crystal jets of water, which crash from a dizzying height, crush and play in the sunshine. A truly fascinating sight, especially against the background of steep rocks and picturesque meadows. Any waterfall has power and greatness, but there is such a waterfall in Kazakhstan that you can admire for hours. In our next legend, we will share with you the story of the birth of this waterfall.